Welcome back everyone. This is What If Naruto Went to Yu-Gi-Oh After War. Make sure to support Burning Shadow Wolf for this fanfic. Like and sub if you want to, if not that's okay too. Without any further ado, let's start. Alexis was panting on the ground after the intense exercises Naruto had instructed her to do. Ever since their first conversation a few weeks ago, he had been working her to the extreme in her physical conditioning. At first she was confused as to why he had suddenly forced her into these exercises, but when he explained that it was the most effective way of increasing one's physical energy, and by extension, yang chakra, she had accepted it. "Naruto, can't we take a break?" She panted out, looking up at her fellow blonde, who didn't appear to have broken a sweat yet. Smiling down at his exhausted exercise partner, the blonde gave a slight nod in acceptance. "Alright Alexis, we'll take a short break," his old prankster nature slipping through. His smile turned into a smirk. "After that warm-up I think 5 minutes will be enough of a break, and after that, we'll get to the real workout." The downed girl's eyes widened in shocked horror before narrowing into slits. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" Her only answer was the widening of his smirk. In the end, she learned exactly what classed as a workout for the powerful blonde duelist. She was grateful that it was Sunday and that they didn't have any classes, or she would have probably missed them because she was so tired. That gratefulness was short-lived when Naruto told her that, 3 times a week, he would be waking her up for early morning exercises before class. Deciding his new student had put in enough effort for the day, Naruto gave her the rest of the day off to do with as she pleased. That had earned him a very ecstatic thank you in the form of a strong hug and quick kiss on the cheek before Alexis left for her dorm, and more specifically, the hot tub. Shaking his head at his friend's sometimes over-exuberant tendencies, he went upstairs for a quick shower before leaving towards the main academy building. Chancellor's office. In his office, Shepard was going over some paperwork for an event he hoped to host at Duel Academy. He knew that it would be a few months to a year before all of the necessary preparations were completed, but in the end it would hopefully be worth it. To his right, a computer was going through a database and analyzing all of the cards used in duels since the start of the semester. He ran the same program at least 4 times a week, ensuring none of his students were in possession of forbidden cards or trying to create their own forgery cards. His work was interrupted by someone knocking on his door. Neatly placing the files he had been going over to the side, the Chancellor folded his hands together and called out, "Enter." The door opened to reveal someone he was certainly not expecting to see. "Naruto, to what do I owe this surprise visit?" The blonde freshman stood silently in front of the Chancellor for a moment before finally answering, "I know about the missing students from the abandoned dorm." Shepard's expression clearly showed his shock at Naruto's reply, but it was quickly replaced by a look of wariness. Knowing what was probably going through the Chancellor's head, Naruto tried to put some of his worries to rest. "Don't worry, I won't reveal what I know to any of the other students or the public at large. All I want is to know what exactly happened in that dorm and what its purpose was before it was abandoned." Sighing in relief, Shepard nodded. "Very well Naruto, but I must ask, what is your sudden interest with the dorm and the missing students?" Seeing Naruto wasn't going to answer immediately, the maroon-wearing Chancellor pressed down on a section of his desk. A soft click was heard before the part of the desk slid out of the way, revealing a laptop hidden beneath. Naruto raised an eyebrow at that, but passed it off as the Chancellor merely being cautious. "A friend of mine has a connection to one of the missing students." Well, it was far from a lie, it certainly wasn't the whole truth. Shepard didn't seem bothered by the cryptic answer and merely opened the laptop and entered the necessary password to unlock it. "I assume you are talking about Alexis Rhodes' older brother, correct?" Naruto didn't verbally reply, but that was all the answer Shepard needed. "Don't be so surprised Naruto," he said with a small, sad smile. "Ever since the incident, I have dedicated myself to finding out what happened to the missing students. I know the names of all of those that are missing. Besides that, your friendship with Ms. Rhodes is no secret. I dare say that you two are the source of quite a bit of gossip amongst the other students." Shaking his head at the thought of everyone talking about him, Naruto couldn't say he was entirely surprised by that. Being the adoptive son of Pegasus was bound to put him in the spotlight in the first place, and his actions at the entrance exams no doubt played a considerable part of that as well. What annoyed him though was that it wasn't just him, but Alexis as well, and having known the biggest gossip girl in Konoha, Naruto had a pretty good idea of what people were saying about the two of them. That aside, yes, this is about Atticus. I can tell his disappearance hit Alexis hard, and I want to do what I can to help find him. Pausing for a moment to glance around the room, Naruto spoke again in a quieter voice. "I assume Pegasus told you about my past, correct?" The bald man nodded the affirmative. "Then you know about the power I possess and what I am capable of. Hopefully I can use what I know to aid in the search for the missing students. While I welcome any and all help in this matter, I'm afraid there isn't much that anyone can do at this point." Having found he was looking for on the laptop, Shepard turned the small computer towards Naruto. On the screen were multiple camera recordings from inside the abandoned dorm. At first everything seemed normal, students talking to one another, a few having duels in a small underground arena, and others were just lounging around the common areas. That changed as all at once, the camera feeds cut out and showed nothing but static. All of the surveillance in the dorm and surrounding area was jammed by something. When I and several others went to the dorm to try and ascertain the cause, we found ourselves being pushed back by a strange force. The force prevented anyone from nearing the dorm, and by the time it finally lessened enough for us to approach, all of the students had already vanished. Naruto stayed quiet as he considered everything the Chancellor had said. Again, it didn't appear to be much, but it told him enough. The surveillance around the dorm failing could have been caused by any number of things, but he only knew of a few things that could physically stop outsiders from entering a place. One was a powerful ceiling barrier, but he quickly ruled out that possibility as even in his time, Fuinjutsu was an obscure art. That left him with two possible causes, and neither of them helped the bad feeling he had about the dorm. But even more concerning was what he saw before the camera feed cut out. It was less than a fraction of a second, something that would have been undetectable to the average human eye, but he had seen it. For the briefest of moments, a shadowed image appeared on all of the screens. He couldn't make out any discerning characteristics, but it appeared to be the silhouette of a human head and torso. I understand, Chancellor, but if I may make a suggestion, Shepard nodded and motioned for Naruto to continue. I can't be certain, but I believe I saw something just before the cameras cut out that may help to identify the one responsible, or at least point us in the right direction. Do you know of anyone you can send that footage to and have them slow it down and possibly enhance it to clear up the image? Yes, actually, the scientist at Industrial Illusion should be able to do that, though it may take quite some time before they manage to make any headway on this. Very well, it's not exactly an ideal time frame, but I suppose it's the best shot we have, conceded Naruto as he gave a small bow of his head to Shepard before turning and moving to leave the office. Stopping just as the automatic door slid open, he looked back over his shoulder. If you could please inform me when the scientists have finished with the footage, I would appreciate it. With your permission, I would like to conduct my own investigation concerning the dorm. Perhaps I can find something that was overlooked the first time. Frowning as he clasped his hands in front of his face, Shepard spoke in a tone that brokered no argument. Naruto, as you are a student here, I cannot condone such actions. There are strict rules in place concerning the abandoned dorm for a reason. Should anyone, especially a student, be caught breaking these rules, they face immediate expulsion and removal from the island. Do I make myself clear, Mr. Namikaze? Crystal, Chancellor, answered the blonde before leaving the office. Once the door closed behind him, Naruto gave a small smirk at Shepard's subtle message. He's clever, I'll give him that much. With that done, he left to wander around the academy for a while and maybe duel a few arrogant snobs while he was at it. Abandoned dorm night. That night, despite how sore her body still was, Alexis stood before the dorm her brother had once lived in. She knew the consequence if she was to be caught, but she didn't care. Tonight was too important to let school policy stop her. Tonight was the one-year anniversary of Atticus's disappearance. Placing a rose at the base of the weathered stone gate, the youngest Rhodes child felt tears begin to fall. Be at peace, wherever you are, she whispered to the wind before turning and walking away from the boarded-up structure. So wrapped up her thoughts, the obelisk student never noticed a shadowed figure coming up behind her until it was too late. A shrill scream escaped her lips as she was grabbed from behind, before it was smothered by a cloth being forced over her lower face. She suddenly felt her eyelids become heavy, and her body began to involuntarily relax. Chloroform, Alexis thought in panic. Using what little control she still had over her body, she managed to move her arm behind her and pull a card out of her deck case. Etoile, go find help, hurry. She thought before she lost the fight to stay conscious and fell limp in her attacker's grasp. A deep, menacing chuckle came from the shadowed man as he picked up the prone form of his newest victim and placed her over his shoulder. It appears my decision to come to this academy was correct. Not only will I soon possess every rare card on the island, but the quality of the entertainment is excellent. His previous chuckle turning into a cold, harsh laugh, the shadowed duelist entered the abandoned dorm, thoughts of what he was going to do to his captive filling his mind. Naruto's house. Naruto sat on the edge of his bed wearing nothing but a pair of black silk pajama pants. His eyes were dull as he lifelessly gazed at the collection of weapons hanging on his wall. What no one else knew was that each and every one of those weapons was a relic from his past life. A few of them he had had on his person when he went into his final battle as a shinobi. The others he had systematically tracked down in this time period, going as far as to excavate them from beneath the earth if it was required. Among them were his mother's katana, one of his father's 𝐸 kunai, and the reforged white light chakra saber that once belonged to his sensei. On this particular night, he had enjoyed a peaceful sleep until the memory of his last moments in his time surfaced in a dream. It had woken him in a cold sweat as the scenes from what he considered his greatest failure played themselves over and over in his mind's eye. The corpses of the allied shinobi forces scattered all around him, the pale, dying forms of his closest friends. These memories were the reason he was so reluctant to leave the duelist kingdom in the first place. He was afraid that if he got too close to people, then he would fail to protect them again and be left alone in the world. Naruto. The panic scream ended his melancholy reverie. Eyes regaining some of their lost luster, Naruto looked up and saw the frantic spirit of 𝐫𝐞𝐻 in his room. Before he could ask what was wrong, she said something that caused his blood to freeze. "Naruto, hurry, Alexis has been kidnapped." That single statement was all it took. Eyes regaining their sharpness and moving faster than the eye could see, Naruto threw on his Haori and grabbed the first weapon within reach, his sensei's chakra saber. "Where is she, 𝐫𝐞? What happened?" Taken aback by the speed her mistress's friend displayed, it took a moment for 𝐫𝐞 to regain her bearings. She was at the abandoned dorm, paying respects to her brother when she was attacked from behind. The person placed a cloth over her mouth, and before she fell unconscious, she told me to go get help. "That's all I need to know," said Naruto before he disappeared in a swirl of wind, quickly followed by a thoroughly shocked dual spirit. Moments later, the blonde warrior reappeared outside the gates of the abandoned dorm, a fierce determination filling his entire being. He would not fail Alexis like he failed everyone else. He would not let her suffer the same fate they had. Gripping the cross chains that were blocking his way, he effortlessly ripped them from their stone casing. Letting the chain fall to the ground with a soft thud, and with his anger simmering just beneath his skin, Naruto made short work of crossing the remaining distance to the dorm and kicking the boarded-up door off its hinges. After he did a quick scan of the room and not finding any sign of Alexis or the bastard that took her, he strode purposefully forward into the dorm. It quickly became apparent to him that neither Alexis nor her captor was anywhere on the ground floor, and not willing to waste any more time than he absolutely had to, Naruto formed his signature hand seal and created 3 clones of himself. Sending the copies to search the upper levels of the dorm, the real Naruto turned towards the stairs leading to the basement. If she were real and had a body of her own, 𝐫𝐻 was certain she would have lost the ability to move or speak by now. She knew that humans had the potential to do some impressive things when they were properly motivated, but some of the things she had seen tonight shouldn't even be possible. She was willing to accept the speed Naruto displayed when she first arrived, having known he was faster than the average human. But when he seemingly teleported out of his home and directly to where Alexis was being held, she could honestly say she had never been quite as shocked as she was now. Apparently she didn't understand what shocked meant. "Naruto," she stuttered out, "what exactly are you?" Not stopping his descent, the blonde shinobi gave her an answer that only served to confuse her even more. "𝐫𝐻, that is a question I cannot give an answer to right now. Please just believe me that when the time is right, I will reveal everything, but not now. I know your loyalty lies with Alexis, but please keep what you have seen tonight to yourself. I know she will eventually start asking questions, but I have to be the one to tell her the truth, no one else." Though she wanted to argue, she could understand his point of view. Ever since Alexis had gotten her deck and begun seeing dual spirits, she had been reluctant to tell her parents for fear of what they may think of her. Grudgingly nodding her consent, 𝐫𝐻 looked down the path they were currently on and saw something that caused her eyes to widen. "Naruto, look." Glancing at what the dual spirit was pointing at, he felt his blood begin to freeze again. There on the ground was Alexis's 𝐫𝐻 card. Picking up the discarded card, Naruto broke out into a sprint, his desire to protect Alexis becoming too great to control. At his new speed, it didn't take long for him to finally reach the basement, and the sight that greeted him made his heart stop. Alexis was lying in a coffin, her form pale and lifeless, looking every bit like the corpses of his deceased comrades from his nightmare. Standing over her was a man wearing a large trench coat with a modified version of Crowler's dual vest strapped to his chest and arm. His right hand was currently loosening Alexis's 𝐫𝐻 uniform, making his intentions clear for all to see. "Oh yes, I will enjoy claiming your body as my own. When I'm finished with you, you will beg me for more." Hearing what this man planned on doing to Alexis caused Naruto to see red. His right hand unsheathing his sensei's blade, Naruto threw the tanto towards the large man, intent on ending his existence. Unfortunately, the man had heard him move and moved out of the way, just as the blade passed through the spot his head had once been. Not letting up in his assault, the last living shinobi disappeared in a burst of speed, only to reappear in between Alexis and her assailant. The masked man didn't have time to register his shock before he was thrown back across the room by a powerful roundhouse kick. Seeing the man lying on the ground in pain allowed Naruto the time to regain some form of control over his emotions. Still not willing to take any chances, he pulled the chakra saber out of the wall and held it at the ready. "Who are you?" Pushing himself into a standing position, the large man glared at the person who had interrupted his fun. "My name is Titan, and I am a shadow duelist. I came to this island to acquire all of the rare cards on it and to sample some of fine female specimens this island has to offer. Naruto was just about to lunge at the man to finish him off when he activated his duel disc. Since you interrupted my fun, I challenge you to a duel. The loser shall remain trapped in the Shadow Realm for all eternity. You can't be serious. Why would I bother to duel you when I can just as easily sever your head from your shoulders and be done with it? Apparently that wasn't the response Titan was expecting, and what was visible of his face showed it. As the man began trying to stutter out a response, Naruto sheathed his blade. But fine, I'll humor you in this so-called shadow duel. Placing his hand over the left breast of his Hiyori, Naruto released the seal holding his duel disc. Ignoring the shocked gasp from his opponent, Naruto pulled out his deck from the case attached to his pajamas. I guess Pegasus wasn't kidding when he said having a deck with you at all times would come in handy. Slotting the cards, Naruto glanced back at the unconscious form of Alexis before deploying his black disc. Duel. Both men shouted as they drew their first hands. Naruto. 4000 Titan. 4000. The first move is mine, Titan declared as his duel vest ejected an extra card. Placing the new card in his hand, the masked man chose another and set it in his monster zone. I summon the Infernal Queen Archfiend in attack mode. A feminine fiend with a skeletal body structure and 2 wings folded behind her appeared on the field. She was clothed in a torn yet regal-looking cloak and gown that denoted her as a queen. Infernal Queen Archfiend. At 900 def 1500, level 4, fire attribute, fiend effect. The controller of this card pays 500 life points during each of his or her standby phases. This is not optional. When this card is targeted by the effect of a card controlled by your opponent, when resolving the effect, roll a 6-sided die. If the result is 2 or 5, negate the effect and destroy the opponent's card. As long as this card is face up on the field, increase the ATK of all Archfiend monsters by 1000 points. Because my queen is an Archfiend, her effect applies to her as well, increasing her attack by 1000. As his monster's attack rose, Titan picked up another card and placed it into a slot that opened on the top of his duel disc. Now I activate the field spell, Pandemonium. With this, I no longer have to pay life points to keep my Archfiends in play, and unless they are destroyed by battle, I can add another Archfiend to my hand. The area around the 2 duelists shifted from the darkness of the abandoned dorm to that of a ritualistic chamber of sorts that was entirely blood red in color. Pandemonium. Field spell. Neither player has to pay life points during the standby phase for Archfiend monsters. Each time a player's Archfiend monsters is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, except by battle, that player can add 1 Archfiend monster from their deck to their hand that is a lower level than the destroyed card. Archfiends, huh? How appropriate, thought Naruto as he lazily drew a card from his deck. Adding the card to his hand, he picked up another and set it on his disc. Since you control a monster and I don't, I can special summon this card to the field. So say hello to Jonin Neji Hyuga. Landing in a crouch in front of Naruto, the replica of the fallen Hyuga crossed his arms with a smirk on his face. He was wearing the same standard issue, black Jonin uniform of his village with a dark green flak jacket. Because that was a special summoning, I can still normal summon this turn, and who better than Neji's cousin, Chunin Hinata Hyuga. Jonin Neji Hyuga. At 2100 def 2000, level 5, earth attribute, warrior effect. If your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. If summoned this way, you may look at the top 3 cards from your deck. Add 2 of them to your hand and send the last one to the graveyard. If a monster with Hinata Hyuga in its name would be destroyed by battle, destroy this card instead. Hinata appeared next to Neji in a flash of light and assumed the traditional Jayukin stance. Now, because Neji was summoned using his effect, his second ability activates. I'm allowed to look at the top 3 cards from my deck, drawing 3 cards at once. Naruto looked them over before sliding one into his graveyard. So long as I send one to my grave, I can keep the other 2 in my hand. And now I will activate one of them, a spell card called Twin Lion Fists. Twin Lion Fists. Equip spell. This card can only be equipped to a monster with Hyuga in its name. A monster equipped with this card cannot be destroyed by battle. Destroy any monster that did battle with the equipped monster at the end of the damage step. But this card, I can make Hinata indestructible in battle. As he said this, chakra erupted around Hinata's hands that took the shape of 2 lion heads. It doesn't matter if that pathetic monster can't be destroyed, she is still not powerful enough to destroy my queen, said Titan with a smirk, thinking this duel would be easier than he first thought. His smirk turned into a frown when Naruto simply smirked and ordered the female monster to attack his Archfiend. Is he a fool? His monster may be invincible, but he will still receive damage. True to his prediction, Naruto's life points dropped by 200. Naruto. 3800 Titan. 4000. You truly are foolish, the self-proclaimed shadow duelist mocked. I guess this academy hasn't taught you anything. Titan was interrupted by the sound of his opponent chuckling before an explosion occurred on the field. When the dust finally settled, he was shocked to see that his infernal queen was no longer on the field. What? My twin lion fists doesn't only make my monster invincible in battle, it also destroys any monster mine battled against. Meaning your archfiend was going to be destroyed anyway, and now that you have no monsters to defend yourself, Neji can attack you directly. The Hyuga prodigy fell into the same stance as his cousin, before launching himself at the defenseless duelist and striking him with a barrage of finger strikes. Naruto. 3800 Titan. 1900. The masked man gasped in shock as pain shot throughout his body. What was that? That, began Naruto as he released a strong pulse of chakra, is what it feels like to fight in a real shadow game. Before either duelist could react, a golden light appeared around the sheathed chakra saber on Naruto's hip. The light soon became too strong for either competitor to handle, and they were forced to cover their eyes. Naruto was the first to recover, and what he saw surprised him. Gone was the demonic-looking chamber of pandemonium, and in its place was an endless expanse of swirling darkness. What is this? He thought as he continued to look around before a soft glow at his side caught his attention. Wait, why is the chakra saber glowing? It's almost like the Millennium items. Could it be that the chakra saber invoked the power of the Shadow Realm? That shouldn't be possible though. According to Pegasus, only the Millennium items can invoke such power. I need to figure this out as soon as possible, but for now, let's finish this duel. It's your move, asshole, he called out to the still recovering man. Finally managing to overcome the surprising pain caused by Naruto's monster, Titan drew a card from his deck, not even bothering to have his dual vest do it automatically. Appraising the 5 cards that made up his hand, he mentally cursed his blonde opponent. Damn him, without the infernal queen on the field, there isn't much I can do at this point. I may as well play it safe for now. I'll place a monster in defense mode and end my turn. Naruto drew his card silently. Looking at what he had drawn, a smirk appeared on his face as he placed it in his spell and trap card zone. I activate the spell card, the Hokage's Call to Arms. The Hokage's Call to Arms. Normal spell. When this card is activated, special summon one level 6 of lower warrior type monster from your graveyard. Thanks to this spell, I can special summon one warrior type monster from my grave, so long it's level 6 or below. I choose the card I discarded earlier, my Genini no Yamanaka. The purple-clad mind walker appeared next to Hinata and formed her clan signature hand seal. I activate her effect. By sacrificing her, I can take control a monster on your side of the field, regardless of its position. What? Screamed Titan as his face-down monster appeared on Naruto's side of the field where Ino once stood. Now to end this, said Naruto as he pointed towards the defenseless Titan. Go Neji, Hinata, finish him off. The 2 monsters were quick to follow the command. Both of them prepared a single palm strike before thrusting them into the black-clad duelist's stomach, destroying what was left of his life points. Naruto. 3800 Titan. 0. The second Titan's life point counter reached 0. Creatures made of black slime appeared all around him and began to pull him into some kind of void. The defeated rapist tried reaching out towards Naruto for help, but all that met him was the cold gaze of the seasoned warrior. Be thankful these creatures decided to handle your punishment. What they will do to you would be nothing compared to what I will do if I ever see you again. Titan's screams echoed in the vast expanse of darkness before they were smothered by the slime creatures. Their duty complete, the slime creatures disappeared back into the endless void, and the darkness surrounding Naruto faded from existence. Breathing out a sigh of relief, the shinobi turned to where Alexis was still unconscious in the coffin and moved forward to scoop the girl up into his arms. Cradling her limp form close to his chest, he focused on his home on the island, and the two disappeared in a gust of wind. Naruto's house. Quietly closing his bedroom door after making sure Alexis was comfortably situated on his bed, Naruto made his way downstairs to the living room. Sitting on the table in front of his couch was the white light chakra saber. Relaxing on the couch and folding his hands in front of his face, the unranked duelist closed his eyes as he played the night's events over in his mind, trying to find an explanation for why they happened. First, Titan, a registered criminal and rapist, appears on the island. How did the man get to the island in the first place? They were far enough from shore that it would take at least 2 days of constant travel by boat to reach the island. No one should have been able to make that kind of journey alone unless they had the right kind of training. That left air travel as the only means of reaching the island quickly, but that worried Naruto even more. No helicopters had been seen on the island for a month now, and Titan didn't seem the type to wait that long to make his move. That meant someone had to have brought him to the island and left shortly after. Naruto made a mental note to pay Shepard another visit soon to discuss what measures were being taken to protect the academy, if there were any at all. The thing that really bothered him though was how the chakra saber seemed to invoke the power of the Shadow Realm. From what Pegasus had told him, only the Millennium items should possess the ability to call on such power. So what did that make the chakra saber? It couldn't have been cursed because it was one of the things he had brought with him to this time. Conceding that he didn't know enough about the Millennium items to draw a viable conclusion to his questions, Naruto decided to put the matter aside until he had a chance to speak with certain individuals. "Naruto?" a soft voice said from the entryway. Opening his eyes, Naruto saw Alexis walking into the living room, eyes drooped from fatigue. Getting off the couch, Naruto pulled his fellow blonde into a comforting hug, knowing she was likely going to need to be reassured that she was safe from harm. "How are you feeling, Alexis?" he asked, his worry for the girl in his arms filling his voice. Alexis gave him a little extra squeeze before pulling back far enough to look him in the eye. "A little tired, but other than that I'm fine," she said with a small smile. Her smile lessened slightly as the events from earlier that night came to the forefront, but she did her best to hide it, not wanting to worry her friend any more than he already was. Unfortunately for her, Naruto was much more observant and understood females a little better than most. "You remember what happened?" It was more of a statement than a question. Her smile was replaced with a small frown, and her brow creased as she tried to recall exactly what had happened before she fell unconscious. "Yeah," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I was at the abandoned dorm because today was," her voice caught in her throat as she fought back the tears. Pulling her back into his chest, Naruto did his best to convey his support. Feeling her strength renewed by Naruto's presence, she continued, "Today was the anniversary of Atticus's disappearance. I wanted to do something in his memory, so I left his favorite flower outside the dorm. The next thing I know, someone's behind me and has a rag of chloroform pressed over my face. I don't remember anything else after that, and the next thing I know I was waking up in your room." Naruto pulled Alexis onto the couch and looked her dead in the eye. "Alexis, most people would lie and tell you nothing happened to prevent you from experiencing any kind of trauma. I'm not one of those people. I believe knowing the truth and learning to cope with it makes us stronger, but I will give you the choice. If you want to know what happened, I will tell you, if not, we can move on and forget this ordeal ever happened." Alexis hesitated for a moment, truly wondering if she did want to know what happened. In the end, Naruto's wise words held more merit than her fears. It may be difficult to listen to, but if she could accept it and move on, she would be stronger for it. So with a nod of consent, Naruto told her everything, from Itoil appearing in his room, to his subsequent victory over Titan in a shadow duel. He took great care to alter and avoid the points in the story where he had utilized his skills as a shinobi, and also the reason why he had been up this late. When he got to the part where he had found Titan preparing to rape her, she had withdrawn into herself a bit and clung to him tighter, but he just held her and let her work through it as best she could. They stayed in that position for the rest of the night, both finally surrendering to the blissful hold of sleep. The next morning, Naruto was the first to wake, his body used to short amounts of sleep. Slowly opening his eyes, he would forever remember the picture of perfection that greeted his vision. Alexis was sleeping with her head on his chest, her face the perfect image of peaceful content. The morning rays of sunlight filtering through one of the windows were casting a soft glow across her skin, making her look every bit the angel she was. Her right arm was wrapped around his waist, unknowingly brushing against his morning wood. His eyes shot open when he finally registered that last part. Quickly but carefully extracting himself from her grasp, Naruto left to go about his normal morning routine before waking the sleeping beauty in his home and preparing for the day's classes. An hour later, Naruto walked back into the living room and knelt next to the still sleeping girl. Gently shaking her shoulder, he spoke softly, "Alexis, come on Alexis, it's time to wake up. We have to be in class soon, and we don't want Crawler getting on our case, do we?" No," mumbled the waking girl before sitting up and rubbing the sleep from her eyes. It was then that the intoxicating aroma of food reached her nostrils, and her mouth instantly began to water, while her stomach gave a loud growl. Chuckling slightly, Naruto stood in motion for her to follow him to the kitchen. "Sounds like someone's hungry." Alexis's cheeks turned pink, but she nodded all the same. Taking an offered seat, the blonde obelisk asked, "I didn't know you could cook, Naruto. When did you learn?" "When I was young," he said as he set 2 plates full of eggs, bacon and toast on the table. "I was orphaned at a young age and the orphanage I was in wasn't exactly the best. The matrons there would sometimes force the kids to do a brunt of the work. Cooking was one of them, and even though I didn't necessarily learn willingly, it's something I enjoy doing." Again, it wasn't a complete lie, but if he was going to tell her everything one day, he had to start slowly, or it might be too overwhelming for her. Alexis looked appalled that people would do something like that to children in their care, but kept any comment she may have had to herself. A comfortable silence descended over the two as they ate the simple yet delicious breakfast. Soon after they finished, the 2 blondes were making their way towards the main building for class. They had just taken seats next to each other in Crowler's class when something neither expected happened. A dozen men, garbed in black military uniforms, entered the classroom. They formed two lines on the aisles, boxing in all of the students. From the front of the class, a woman wearing the same uniform stepped up to the teacher's podium and spoke in a commanding voice. "Naruto Namikaze. You are under campus arrest, will you comply, or do things have to get physical?" The classroom fell silent as all eyes turned to the unranked duelist. Narrowing his eyes at the woman, Naruto slowly stood up. "What exactly are the charges against me?" Unknown to anyone else in the room, he was silently using his chakra to stretch his muscles and prepare his body if things got out of hand. That will be made clear at the interrogation. Now I'll ask one last time, will you comply? I'm not going anywhere until I hear these so-called charges. Crossing his arms to emphasize his point, Naruto leveled the woman with a glare that would have made Orochimaru proud. Very well, the tone in her voice showed that she wasn't surprised by his lack of cooperation. You leave us no choice. Take him. The Black Cat troopers made a move to apprehend Naruto, but they were shocked when he suddenly jumped from his place at the top of the class and landed seamlessly behind the woman in charge. That shock didn't last long though, and they quickly made their way down the steps and surrounded Naruto. From her place in the class, Alexis watched the scene unfolding before her with worry. She knew that Naruto was in great physical condition, he had to be with the workouts he did, but could he really take on the disciplinary action squad? They were the police of the campus and highly trained to keep the island safe, though they didn't do a very good job when it came to stopping Titan. A few rows down, Bastion and 𝐬𝐝 shared Alexis's worry for their friend. They would have done something to help him, but it seemed the action squad had come in force. The moment the order to apprehend Naruto had been given, more troopers had stormed into the room and formed a defensive line around the classroom, preventing any outside interference from reaching Naruto. Back on the floor, one of the troopers made a grab for Naruto, only to have his hand stopped by his target. Spinning on his heel, the last shinobi threw the man into three of his comrades with little difficulty. That forced the other squad members into action. Two came at him from either side, intent on catching him in a pincer move. Naruto waited until they were almost on top of him before ducking down and delivering a powerful palm thrust to their torsos, sending them both back the way they came. Still trying to overwhelm him with numbers, four more tried to catch him off guard with a frontal charge. Are they serious? Thought Naruto as he glanced around him. So far he had easily dispatched half of the men surrounding him, and the other half would soon follow. Ignoring the four rushing him, he mentally frowned at the tactics being used against him. Do they really think trying to overwhelm me with increasing waves is going to work? They've already seen I have no problem fighting multiple opponents, so why not switch tactics? I guess these guys aren't as highly trained as they think. Putting his thoughts aside for the moment, he focused on his next four victims. Dropping to the ground once again, Naruto spun and knocked his assailants off of their feet with a leg sweep. Continuing his spin, he smoothly pushed himself into a handstand and hit the four away using a textbook helicopter kick. Before any of the remaining troopers could try and avenge their comrades, the screen came to life with a scowling Chancellor Shepard on it. What is the meaning of this? Madam Chairman, who authorized you to use such force against a student? Snapping to attention, the woman in charge spoke up. Sir, we received an anonymous tip from one of the faculty that Naruto Namikaze knowingly, and in full awareness of the illegality of his actions, entered the abandoned dorm. The informant also authorized the use of force should the offender refuse to comply. The reasons given were that the offender had already proven he had no qualms about harming others. An incident report from the entrance exams confirms this. As an afterthought, she added, he has also assaulted and injured several members of my squad. Given the charges, Chancellor, I recommend he be expelled immediately. Naruto, being threatened with expulsion, moved many of the Slifers and Ras present to speak up in defense of the blonde. 3 students in particular took that as their cue to finally get involved and defend their friend. Alexis, Bastion and 𝐬𝐝 pushed their way past the members of the disciplinary action squad and quickly moved to Naruto's side. Alexis immediately saddled up to Naruto's side, her left hand slipping into his almost naturally. Acting on instinct, Bastion and 𝐬𝐝 took up positions just behind the two blondes, flanking them as warriors with their king and queen. Chancellor, if you expel Naruto, you will have to expel me too, said Alexis, surprising many of her fellow obelisks. While a majority of those in the blue blazers didn't exactly get along with Naruto, they at least respected his prowess in the dueling arena. To hear that their queen was willing to let herself be expelled along with him gave others reason to reevaluate their opinions of the blonde. Shepard only showed mild surprise at the declaration, but was stopped before he could speak. I must agree with Alexis, Chancellor. I know Naruto, and it is not in his nature to so blatantly ignore such rules. If he was indeed at the dorm, then he had reason to be there. Furthermore, beyond the anonymous tip, does the disciplinary action squad have any solid evidence that Naruto committed the violations he is accused of? The last part was directed towards the chairman of the squad, who flinched at the question. That was enough of an answer for the Chancellor, however, seeing as you don't have evidence to back up your claims, Naruto will not be punished. Now, I suggest you and your men return to your barracks and up your training. If a single student could so easily defeat some of your best, then I question your capabilities to perform your jobs. Now wait just one moment, screamed a familiar shrill voice. Everyone turned to see Crowler stomping into the class, his face an angry shade of red. Chancellor, this slacker not only breaks some of the most important rules at this school, but also brutally attacks those tasked with our safety, and you're letting him off scot-free. There is no evidence to support that Naruto broke such rules, and the action squad used unauthorized force against him. He was well within his right to defend himself. Crowler scowled at his superior, but the look quickly morphed into one of glee as an idea struck him. Very well, Chancellor, as neither party can provide evidence to support their claim, other than their word on the matter, I will exercise my right as Vice-Chancellor. Therefore, Mr. Namikaze will duel an opponent of my choosing to decide whether or not he shall face punishment. If he wins, he will be pardoned, if he loses, he will be expelled immediately. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the cross-dresser before shifting to his Chancellor, his expression asking the question everyone wanted an answer to. His scowl returning, Shepard nodded once, confirming Crowler's claim. So be it, Naruto will duel your chosen opponent in 1 week in the main arena. Until then, carry on with classes as normal, that is all. The screen blacked out after that, and with plans on how to get Crowler back forming in his mind, Naruto led his friends back to their seats so class could finally begin. It wasn't a minute after class was dismissed that Naruto was out the door, his 3 friends quickly catching up with him. Bastion, said the blonde as he led them to their next class, Shepard has already confirmed that what Crowler did was within his rights, but I want to know the rule that allows him to do it in detail. Do you know it? The 3 were taken aback by the tone in Naruto's voice. It was one that spoke of a person used to giving commands, like a general leading an army. Yes, said Bastion, it is one of the lesser used rules because the circumstances for its use are rarely achieved. It simply states, should a member of the school staff accuse a student of a crime with minimal evidence, that student has the right to challenge such claims. But should the student provide equally minimal evidence to their defense, the standing vice-chancellor may step in to avoid the conflict escalating. The vice-chancellor may choose to set a challenge before the student with consequences to be paid, should they fail the set challenge. From what I can tell, it is pretty straightforward, and there doesn't appear to be any loopholes that can be exploited. That is where you're wrong, Bastion. 3 pairs of eyes narrowed in confusion, but before any of them could ask, Naruto spoke again. Alexis, out of the 3 of you, your deck is the most compatible with mine. Once classes are finished for the day, we will have to calibrate it so it can work more harmoniously with mine. Cirrus, Bastion, while we are doing that, I want you 2 to monitor the docks and heliports and report any strange arrivals. Why do you want us to do that, Naruto? Asked the shortest member of their group. You don't think Dr. Crowler would really bring in an outside duelist as your opponent, do you? Besides, wouldn't he have told you if your duel would have been a tag team? It wouldn't be fair to you if he didn't. This is Crowler we're talking about, Cirrus. We know he's not above using the rules to try and get rid of me. The incident with the love letter was proof of that. The rule he's using now grants him a lot of freedom in choosing my challenge. It didn't specifically state that he had to tell me exactly what the challenge would be, so he could easily arrange a tag match and disqualify me on principle alone. No matter how underhanded it is, if he did, it would be perfectly legal according to the rules. That's why I'm not taking any chances. The 3 remained silent at that, knowing that everything Naruto had said was true. The rest of the day passed by in a blur for the 4 duelists, and they soon separated to complete their assigned tasks. The week leading up to the duel that would determine Naruto's fate at Duel Academy was an eventful one. Word of Naruto's actions in class and his impending duel spread like wildfire across the island. The small handful of students who were still against the former shinobi now gave him a wide berth, fearing what he may do to them should they incite his anger. This caused many of the families of those students to put pressure on Chancellor Shepard to forego the challenge and simply expel the blonde at once. Unfortunately for those families, Pegasus didn't take too kindly to them threatening his son. Naruto had contacted him and informed him of the entire ordeal that led to the current situation, asking for his help. Adopted of not, Pegasus couldn't ignore his son's call and readily took up the task of running interference on the legal stage, as well as creating a set of cards to help Alexis's cyber angels work better with Naruto's deck. The students at the academy could easily sense the trepidation coming from the group of 4, and they did their best to stay out of the group's way. Taking Naruto's words to heart about not taking any chances with the upcoming duel, the 3 ranked students recruited some help in making preparations. 𝐸𝐲 had brought in his roommate, 𝐫𝐞𝐬𝐴, to help keep watch over the harbor. This freed Bastion to focus more of his energy on researching potential opponents Crowler may hire to duel Naruto. Alexis also brought in her friends Jasmine and Mindy, and after being told the whole story along with everyone else, the two set about aiding Bastion in his research. Despite being two of the biggest fangirls on the island, they proved that when the time called for it, they were quite intelligent and skilled. To the surprise of many of the group, Zane Truesdale, the Kaiser of Duel Academy, also stepped up to help. When asked why, he simply said that anyone who would risk themselves to save his surrogate little sister was a worthy friend and ally. At first not everyone was quite sure what to make of his answer, but when Naruto accepted the help, the others were quick to follow. So with their numbers bolstered by the new additions, the group set out to make sure they were as prepared as possible for anything Crowler might throw their way. Slifer Red Dorm. The day of the duel soon arrived and so far, nothing suspicious had occurred to indicate Crowler was trying to cheat Naruto. That was about to change as a helicopter made its way towards the remote island. Sitting on the porch of the Slifer dorm, 𝐸𝐴 was devouring yet another grilled cheese while watching the harbor with a pair of binoculars. "Looks like we're in the clear," he mumbled in between bites of his sandwich. He spoke too soon though as a helicopter appeared in the distant skies heading for the helipads. But stuffing the rest of the sandwich into his mouth, the senior Slifer focused on the landing aircraft. His eyes widened when he saw who stepped out of the helicopter and who greeted them. Fumbling with his PDA, the cool-looking student called the first number he thought of. "𝐸𝐲." He shouted as soon as the brunette's face appeared on the screen. Naruto was right, Crowler is trying to pull a fast one. He's brought in the Paradox brothers as his opponents. What? Oh man, sometimes I hate it when Naruto is right. Thanks chum, better start heading towards the arena, I'll send a message and let everyone know about this. With that the younger red student ended the call, leaving 𝐸𝐴 to start making his way to the main arena. Obelisk Blue Duel Arena 1 hour later. Noise filled the arena as students sat in anticipation for the upcoming duel. Even to someone who didn't know about the rivalry between the dorms, could easily tell that there was a divide amongst the students. A small group of Obelisk students were sitting apart from the rest, they were the few who still resented Naruto, and among them was their leader, Chaz Princeton. Ever since his loss at Naruto's hands, with the exception of the party he now led, he had become the laughingstock of the Blue Dorm. Even if they didn't share his beliefs, the other Obelisks took great pleasure in reminding him of his humiliating defeat. Clenching his fists as the thoughts of his dorm mate surfaced, Chaz glared at the blonde figure standing on the dueling platform. "It won't be long now, slacker. Soon you'll be expelled and I'll take up my rightful place as the undisputed king of Duel Academy." A cruel smirk spread across his face as Crowler walked out to the platform to begin the duel. "Welcome everyone," the gender-confused teacher shouted once he reached the center of the platform. "I am sure you are all aware of why we are having this little exhibition match, but for the sake of those who do not, allow me to explain. Mr. Naruto Namikaze has been accused of breaking several school rules and faces expulsion. However, since neither he nor those who accused him have enough evidence to prove their sides of story, I have arranged this match to test Mr. Namikaze to see whether or not he shall face punishment." Several murmurs could be heard amongst the audience about the harshness of the punishment, but Crowler continued on unimpeded. "Now without further ado allow me to introduce our guest duelists, the Paradox brothers." Two men wearing monk's robes fell from the rafters and landed on the platform across from Naruto. Both were wearing what appeared to be modified versions of the robes the ninja monks used to wear in Naruto's original time, and like most monks, they were bald. The only noticeable difference between the two was the color of their robes, one was orange, while the other was green. They both had a kanji tattooed onto their foreheads which confused Naruto at first, as alone neither of the kanji had any meaning, but when he looked at them together, he saw that they formed the whole kanji for labyrinth. "Salutations you fool," the orange-wearing one said. "Hope you're ready to duel," finished the green-clad one. "I really hope they don't plan on doing that back and forth, speak the entire time," thought Naruto before he turned his gaze to Crowler. "So which one of them is my opponent?" he asked, playing the role of the ignorant student flawlessly. Crowler's smirk, which had been on his face ever since he set foot on the platform, widened to almost maniacal proportions. "They both are young scholar. For you see, this is a tag duel," the lipstick-wearing man took gleeful pleasure as he pretended to have just noticed something. Oh dear, you don't have a partner for this duel do you? I'm afraid that unless you can produce a partner in the next few seconds, you will lose by default and be expelled from the academy." Thinking he had finally gotten one over on the blonde menace, the vice-chancellor turned to address the crowd once again. "As Mr. Namikaze cannot produce a partner, I hereby dis. Actually, I do have a partner," Naruto's voice cut across the arena, much to the surprise and anger of Crowler. Now Mr. Namikaze, lying will get you nowhere," chided Crowler in his pompous voice. His supposed victory was short-lived however, as a new voice entered the arena. He's telling the truth, Dr. Crowler, I'm his partner. Every head in the arena turned to the entranceway as the owner of the voice walked out of the tunnel. Crowler and Chaz's eyes widened when they saw who it was, while everyone who knew about the classroom incident a week ago cheered. Alexis Ms. Rhodes, shouted the two people who hated Naruto the most. Chaz may have been present during the classroom incident, but he still refused to believe that his Alexis would really lower herself to that level. For Crowler, the shock that one of his obelisks would willingly duel with his most hated pupil was overshadowed by the fact that Naruto had known he would need a partner for the match. By the time the two had gotten over their shock, Alexis had reached the platform and was standing at Naruto's side once again. Gritting his teeth at yet another failed attempt to expel Naruto, Crowler forced himself to remember that there was still the matter of the duel itself. It doesn't matter, even if Alexis is dueling with him, Naruto won't stand a chance against the Paradox brothers. After he is expelled, I will have Ms. Fontaine punish Alexis as well, hopefully that will help her to see the error of her ways. Enough with the pleasantries, said Para as he formed a half-ram sign with his left hand. Beside him, his twin took the same pose, using his right hand to form the seal instead. And now on with the duel, moving in unison, the two turned to look at their blonde opponents. We didn't come here to talk, both jumped back to their side of the dueling arena and assumed a fighting stance. We came to destroy you. They finished at the same time. Neither Naruto nor Alexis said anything as they took up their positions, so the duel could commence. Mistaking their silence for fear and trepidation, Crowler decided to get in one last shot at Naruto before the duel began. Oh, don't worry, my young scholar, I'm sure you'll do fine. After all, these two haven't dueled in years, and their last opponent was some child by the name of Yugi, I believe. You can stop talking, Crowler, said Naruto, his voice once again devoid of emotion as he mentally prepared himself. Did you forget who my father is? I know all about the duel these two had with Yugimoto and Joey Wheeler, and it means nothing. Now start the duel and get out of the way. Just as the headmaster of the obelisk dorm was about to start ranting, Alexis leveled her cold gaze on him. Even Crowler was smart enough to know not to mess with a hacked-off female, so he wisely decided to explain the rules and get out of the line of fire. Very well, the rules for this duel are simple, neither side is allowed to share strategies or advice. Also, teams may use any cards on their partner's field or in their graveyard. Both teams shall start with 8,000 life points, understand? 4 nods in the affirmative were his answer, then begin the duel. Naruto Alexis. 8,000 Paradox. 8,000. Alexis looked to Naruto before she drew a card from her deck. I'll start us off, placing her new card in her hand, the blonde obelisk picked up another and placed it in her monster zone. I summoned Cyber Tutu in attack mode, a young pink-haired girl wearing a light green ballerina outfit with red sleeves and accents appeared on the field. She had on a frilly, translucent sky blue skirt along with a visor of the same color. On her feet were pink ballerina slippers with long strands fluttering behind her. Next I'll activate the spell card, Prima Light. Cyber Tutu. At 1000 Def 800, Level 3, Earth Attribute, Warrior Effect. If the attack of each monster your opponent controls is higher than the attack of this card can attack your opponent directly. Prima Light. Quick play spell, send one face-up Cyber Tutu you control to the graveyard. Special summon one Cyber Prima from your hand. Since Cyber Tutu is on my field, I can sacrifice her to special summon Cyber Prima from my hand. Tutu disappeared in a flash of light and was replaced by a white-haired female with a red mask. The new monster had on a grey and ice blue skin-tight suit. She had on a pair of dark blue boots that reached just below her knees. Floating around her waist were 2 crossed golden hoops that matched the 4 hoops around her arms, 2 at her wrists and 2 at her shoulders. Cyber Prima. At 2300 Def 1600, Level 6, Light Attribute, Warrior Effect. When this card is tribute summoned, destroy all face-up spell cards on the field. Next I activate Monster Reborn, allowing me to bring Tutu back from the grave. The young girl reappeared on the field with a little twirl and settled next to her older counterpart. The blonde obelisk placed one of her 2 remaining cards in her spell and trap card zone. I'll end my turn with 1 card face down. As a hologram of a card appeared behind Cyber Prima, the orange-clad twin drew a card from his deck. Impressive, I will admit, but so is this. 𝐸𝐴𝐼𝐺, a large, mutated brown spider, appeared in front of Para. It had spikes for legs and 3 green eyes that only added to its grotesque appearance. That will do for now. 𝐸𝐼𝐺. At 2200 Def 100, Level 4, Earth Attribute, Insect Effect. When this card declares an attack, toss a coin and call it. If you call it wrong, lose half your life points. You're just like Crowler, playing a powerful monster, but leaving yourself defenseless otherwise. Be thankful none of us can attack on our first turn, said Naruto as he drew his card. Looking at it for a moment, he placed it in his monster zone. I'll summon Chunin Shikamaru Nara in attack mode and set 1 card face down. Wearing a gray version of the standard issue Konoha uniform and a light green Chunin vest, the pineapple-haired genius appeared in a swirl of shadows. One card appeared behind the new monster as Naruto crossed his arms, awaiting his opponent's turn. Junin Shikamaru Nara. At 1600 Def 1900, Level 4, Dark Attribute, Warrior Effect. Once per turn, you can change this face-up attack position monster into defense mode to stop the attack of one of your opponent's monsters. It is you who should be thankful, for I summon the 𝐫𝐸𝐶 in attack mode. I also play the spell card Tribute Doll. To activate it, I must sacrifice a monster from our side of the field. Fortunately, my brother is so generous with his. The two shared a nod before Dox chose another card in his hand. Now say farewell Jiraiya. I sacrifice you in order to summon 𝐫𝐫𝐸𝐻. The powerful wind picked up on the dueling platform, causing the brothers' robes and Naruto's Haori to flutter in the wind. From the center of that wind rose a green spherical monster with long, bulky arms. It had golden markings along the main part of its body, forming the rough outline of a face on it. In the center of it was a large kanji for wind inside of a gold circle. 𝐲𝐢𝐳. At 1700 Def 1650, Level 4, Light Attribute, 𝐶 Effect. This card can be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a light monster. Tribute All. Normal spell Tribute 1 monster, special summon 1 level 7 monster from your hand that can be normal summon or normal set. It cannot attack this turn. 𝐤𝐳𝐽. At 2400 Def 2200, Level 7, Wind Attribute, Spellcaster Effect. During your opponent's damage calculation, you can reduce the attack of an attacking monster to 0 until the end of the damage step. This effect can only be used once while this card remains face up on the field. But I am not finished yet. I activate Dark Designator. This powerful spell allows me to call out any monster I can think of, and if it is anywhere in my brother's deck, he can add it to his hand. Now let me see here, Sangha of the Thunder. Hara chuckled slightly as a card slid out of the middle of his deck. What do you know, it is right here ready to tear them asunder. Adding the powerful card to his hand, Hara stuck his left arm out towards Naruto and Alexis. The duel just started. And yet it is almost done, continued Dox, mirroring his brother's pose with his right arm. For your demise has already begun. They finished together. They sure love to hear themselves talk, don't they, Alexis? Asked Naruto with a fake yawn, emphasizing the boredom he felt at the brothers' antics. The two wanted monks scowled at their male opponent, but before they could respond, most likely in tandem again, the female of the team began her turn. Looks that way, doesn't it? Drawing her card with smirk on her face, the obelisk queen showed it to her opponents. I activate Pot of Greed, giving me 2 more cards. After adding the 2 cards to her hand, she pointed her gloved hand towards the defenseless Para. Now let me show you how foolish it was to leave your brother completely defenseless. Cyber Prima, attack him directly. Just as the white-haired monster was about to strike, Dox made his counter. Not so fast. I activate the effect of 𝐫𝐫𝐻𝐻, reducing your monster's attack to 0. In other words, your attack is useless. 𝐫𝐫𝐻𝐻 moved in front of Para and produced a wall of wind to fend off the attack. Unfortunately for them, Alexis wasn't so easily denied. You've triggered my trap. Go, pure pupil. Her trap flipped face up, revealing a white humanoid body surrounded by rays of light. A beam of light shot out of the card and impacted with 𝐫𝐫𝐻𝐻, destroying it in a shower of light. With nothing standing in her way, Cyber Prima continued with her attack, striking the orange-clad brother with a falling axe kick. Pure pupil. Counter trap activate only when your opponent activates the effect of an effect monster. Will you control a monster with 1000 or less attack? Negate that effect and destroy that monster. Naruto Alexis. 8000 Paradox. 5700. What happened to our monster? Said the brothers, shock covering their faces. The effect of my pure pupil happened, said Alexis as she crossed her arms under her large bust. Since I control a monster with 1000 attack points, your monster's effect is negated and the monster itself destroyed. Now it's my tutu's turn to attack, and since the only monster you control has more attack points than her, she can attack you directly. The young ballerina leapt over the sea serpent monster and kicked Dox with a graceful spin. I think you've taken enough punishment this turn, so I'll end with that. Naruto Alexis. 8000 Paradox. 4700. You will pay for that, Para said as he drew his card with a wide swing of his arm. I play my own monster reborn and bring back the frightful Jiraiya. The mutated bug reappeared on the field in a flash of light. Next I activate Tribute All. I hope you remember what comes next. Naruto's eyes narrowed slightly while Alexis frowned. I sacrifice Jiraiya once again to summon the mighty Sujin. A monster that looked like the lower half of a body appeared in a geyser of water. It was blue with 2 legs on either side of its body. The body itself was a lighter shade of blue, with the kanji for water in the middle and an open mouth on the bottom. Sujin. At 2500 def 2400, level 7, water attribute, aqua effect during damage calculation in your opponent's turn. If this card is being attacked, you can target the attacking monster, make that target's attack 0 during damage calculation only. This effect can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. But I am not done. Thanks to my brother, I sacrifice 𝐫𝐞𝐪, and when he is used for the tribute summon of a light attribute monster, his sacrifice counts as 2. So 𝐫𝐤𝐳 of the Thunder. The red armored monster seemed to fade into existence on the field, with lightning flashing around it. The arms and lower part of its body were rusted gold color, matching the horn medallion on its chest. In the center of the medallion was the kanji for lightning, and protruding from its shoulders was a chain of 3 golden orbs. 𝐫𝐤 of the Thunder. At 2600 def 2200, level 7, light attribute, thunder effect during damage calculation in your opponent's turn. If this card is being attacked, you can target the attacking monster, make that target's attack 0 during damage calculation only. This effect can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. The time has come to avenge their fallen brother, 𝐫𝐤𝐳, and attack Cyber 2-2. Lightning surged around the thunder monster before a single bolt struck the ballerina. She gave a silent scream before an explosion consumed her. Naruto Alexis. 6400 paradox. 4700. Now Sujin shall have his turn, destroy Cyber Prima. A powerful jet of water came from the monster's open mouth and barreled down on the silver-clad female. Before it could reach her, however, an invisible barrier intercepted the attack. The attack was blocked. How could that be? Did you forget this was a tag duel? Everyone looked towards Naruto and noticed that his monster, which had been in attack mode, was now in defense mode. Dismissing an opponent, believing they are not a threat and focusing solely on the other, is the worst mistake you could make in this kind of duel. Because of your foolishness, you failed to take into consideration my monster's special effect. By switching him into defense position, I can negate your monster's attack. Now, unless you have another card to play, hurry up and end your turn. Scowling, the orange-clad brother grudgingly nodded. Good, now watch how a real duelist works. Adding the new card to the 3 already in his hand, Naruto choose another. I sacrifice Shikamaru in order to summon one of my greatest allies, Jonin Kakashi Hatake. The Nara heir seemed to smirk before he disappeared into a vortex of sorts. Out of the same vortex, emerged a familiar form of the silver-haired Jonin. The hologram turned and I smiled at the blonde shinobi before lifting up his headband and leveling his Sharingan gaze on the 2 brothers. When he is summoned successfully to field, his special effect kicks in, allowing me to summon up to 2 Genin monsters from my hand. So say hello to Genin Sasuke Uchiha. The young Uchiha appeared next to his former master and assumed his family's taijutsu stance. Jonin Kakashi Hatake. At 2500 def 2200, level 6, light attribute, warrior effect. When this card is successfully summoned to the field, you may special summon up to 2 Genin monsters from your hand. During your opponent's battle phase, you may discard 1 card from your hand to remove your opponent's attacking monster from play. Now I activate my face-down card, the Will of Fire. The generic hologram flipped up to reveal the leaf symbol of Konoha inside her of a single, raging flame. Thanks to this card, all of mine and Alexis's monsters get a little power boost. The Will of Fire. Continue a spell so long as there are 2 or more warrior-type monsters on your side of the field. All warrior-type monsters on your field gain 500 attack points. Kakashi at 2500 to 3000. Sasuke at 0 to 500. Cyber Prima at 2300 to 2800. Sadly, I can't use Alexis's monster to attack, so you have one last reprieve. Kakashi, show them what a real lightning user is capable of. Rikiri. Kakashi's right hand ignited with concentrated blue lightning. Leaping towards the monster that formed the top half of the feared gate guardian, the silver-haired Jonin easily plunged his hand into the armored monster. The twins shielded their eyes as another of their key monsters exploded in a shower of sparks. I'll end with a card face down. I'd make this turn count if I were you, because Alexis will be the one to end this duel on her next turn. Naruto Alexis. 6400 paradox. 4300. The bold claim, said Dox as he drew his card. Placing it in another of the 2 cards in his hand in his spell and trap card zone, holograms of them appeared on his field. But what do you expect a little girl to do against one of the most powerful monsters in existence? I activate Monster Reborn and Premature Burial, and for the cost of 800 life points, I can resurrect our 2 fallen monsters. Arise once again, 𝐫𝐤𝐳 and 𝐸𝐤 of the Thunder. In identical flashes of light, the last 2 pieces of the brothers' puzzle return to the field. Premature Burial. Equip spell. Activate this card by paying 800 life points, then target 1 monster in your graveyard, special summon that target in face-up attack position, and equip it with this card. When this card is destroyed, destroy the equipped monster. Naruto Alexis. 6400 paradox. 3500. Now that all three have been brought together again, I will sacrifice them in order to summon your destruction. The kanji on the three monsters began to glow brightly as the wind once again picked up. I summoned the Gate Guardian. A pillar of light erupted around the three as the silhouette of the mighty card appeared in the middle of it. The light soon faded, revealing the great beast in all its glory. You were a fool to believe you actually stood a chance of defeating us. With the Gate Guardian on our side, we are invincible. Now attack his Genin with Tidal Surge. Gate Guardian. At 3750 Def 3400, Level 11, Dark Attribute, Warrior Effect cannot be normal summon set. Must first be special summoned from your hand by tributing one Sangha of the Thunder 𝐫𝐸𝐽 and 𝐶𝐢𝐼𝐴. I don't think so, said Naruto as his face down revealed itself. I play the trap card, Cunning of the Shinobi. By discarding a card from my hand, your attack is negated and you take 1000 points of damage. Another invisible barrier stopped the attack just before it reached its intended target. But instead of it fading from existence, the jet of electrified water changed course and struck Dox. Naruto Alexis. 6400 Paradox. 2500. Cunning of the Shinobi. Counter trap activate when your opponent declares an attack. Discard one card from your hand to negate the attack and inflict 1000 points of damage to your opponent's life points. Growling in frustration, the green-clad brother ended his turn. Now it's my turn, said Alexis as she drew her card and looked at it. A smirk formed on her lips as she glanced at her partner and saw him nod with a matching smirk. Placing the card with the three already in her hand, the Queen of Obelisk Blue chose another and played it in her spell and trap card zone. I activate the ritual spell card, Machine Angel Ritual. With this I can summon any Cyber Angel Ritual monster I want, so long as I give up the appropriate monsters. Machine Angel Ritual. Ritual spell. This card is used to ritual summon any Cyber Angel Ritual monster. You must also tribute monsters from the field or your hand, whose total levels equal the level of the ritual monster you are attempting to ritual summon. By sacrificing my Cyber Prima on the field, I can summon one of the new additions to my deck, Cyber Angel Mikoto. A circle of fire formed around Cyber Prima before she dissolved into hundreds of particles of light. No sooner had she disappeared than did the fire shoot skyward, forming a swirling pillar of flame. Out of that fire stepped one of the most beautiful women to ever grace the earth. Her long, flowing black hair glistened in the light of the flames, framing and accentuating her heart-shaped face. Her normal obsidian eyes were replaced by the crimson red of her fully matured Sharingan, while her outfit did nothing to hide the sensuous curves of her body, a fact every male present was thankful for. A skin-tight, sleeveless black blouse with a high collar, emblazoned with the Uchiha crest on the back. Skin-tight black shorts that stopped just above her knees, black boots and a dark red cloth wrapped around her waist and held in place by a black rope as a makeshift skirt completed her outfit. Strapped to the back of her waist was a katana in a black sheath, with a miniature version of the Uchiha crest on either side of the hilt. Cyber Angel Mikoto. At 2500 Def 1900, Level 6, Fire Attribute, Ritual Warrior Effect. This card can only be ritual summoned with a ritual spell card, Machine Angel Ritual. If an Uchiha monster is on the field when this card is summoned, you can destroy one monster your opponent controls with 2000 or more attack points. Chakra began to swirl around the newly summoned monster as she drew her katana from its sheath. Without any command from Alexis, the Uchiha matriarch disappeared in a burst of speed and reappeared behind the massive guardian. Nothing seemed to have happened until a thin, diagonal line appeared across the Gate Guardian. The feared monster exploded with such force that it shook the entire arena, knocking the standing Dr. Crowler onto his ass. Seeing the utter shock on the faces of the Paradox brothers, Alexis elaborated for them, "Guess I should have mentioned my monster's special effect. Whenever she is summoned, if there is a monster with Uchiha in its name on the field, I can destroy a monster you control, so long as it has 2000 or more attack points." "But that means," began the brothers before Naruto cut them off. "This duel is over, and since the Will of Fire is still in play, Mikoto's attack points increase. Cyber Angel Mikoto. At 2500 to 3000. Time to end this, Cyber Angel Mikoto, attack them directly." From her place in between the brothers, the black-haired Kunoichi struck first at Dox, before throwing her blade and impaling Para. Naruto Alexis. 6400 Paradox. 0. As Para and Dox's life points reached 0 and the holograms faded away, cheering filled the dueling arena as the students shouted praise to the blonde pair. Ignoring the thundering of the crowd, Naruto walked over to his partner and placed a hand on her shoulder. Alexis looked up into the eyes of her secret crush and felt her face begin to warm as he gave her a smile. "You fought well today, Alexis. I was honored to have you as my partner for this. You can keep the new cards too, a gift from my father and me." "Thank you, Naruto, but I couldn't have pulled this off without you." Mustering up her courage, the busty blonde stood on her toes and planted a kiss on Naruto's cheek. It was Naruto's turn to blush as many in the crowd began shouting cat calls and wolf whistles at the two. Pulling back, Alexis gave her fellow blonde a smile before turning to wave at the crowd. Naruto had other ideas though as he grabbed her wrist and pulled his into his chest. Smirking at the now completely red-faced obelisk, the last shinobi turned to the crowd and raised his left fist into the air. The thunderous cheering got that much louder as the students cheered not only for their victory, but the soon-to-be christened royal couple as well. Up in the stands, Chaz's eyes were wide with fury as he clenched his fists tight. There's no way that slacker should have won. If it wasn't for Alexis, he would have lost for sure. And how dare he hold my Alexis like that? The next time we duel, I'll be sure to put him in his place, and Alexis will join me at my side. Not seeing his desired outcome of the duel, the Princeton heir got up and silently left the duel arena, with a few of his fellow obelisk following after him. It can't be, even with Alexis' help, how did they win? Thought a panicked Crowler, it's not fair, why wouldn't he just lose and be out of my hair once and for all? Well done, that was quite an impressive duel. Naruto and Alexis looked up to see Chancellor Shepard walk up to the edge of the dueling platform. It also gives me great pleasure to announce that Naruto will not be expelled from the academy. Another round of applause rang through the arena, the loudest ones being Naruto's group of friends. Now then, if you'll excuse me, I have some business to attend to. Crowler, come with me please. All color drained from the obelisk headmaster's face as a strange force seemed to carry his frozen body behind Shepard. Exemplary dueling you two, I never doubted you for a second, said Bastion, as he and the rest of their group reached them on the arena floor. The same can't be said for Chumlee and Cirrus, I saw them shaking a couple of times during the match. Everyone chuckled or giggled at Mindy's comment, while the two Sliffers blushed slightly. We weren't shaking because we were worried, we were shaking because of how exciting the match was, Cirrus stammered out with Chumlee quickly nodding in agreement. I'm sure, shot back Jasmine, but enough of this, we need to celebrate, party at Naruto's place. I'm in, cheered Mindy. Yes, me as well, said Bastion with a nod. I'll make my world-famous grilled cheese. Count me in, said Cirrus before everyone turned to the oldest member of their little circle. Zane's expression didn't falter even once as everyone was giving him pleading looks, with Mindy and Jasmine even unleashing the dreaded puppy dog eyes jutsu. It seemed though that not even the stoic Zane was immune to the effects of the forbidden technique as he sighed before nodding in agreement. With one last group cheer, the five friends rushed out of the arena and towards Naruto's home. Do you think they'll notice that they left us behind? Deadpanned Alexis, who hadn't moved from her place against Naruto's chest. Zane raised an eyebrow at Alexis's position but decided not to comment on it this time. He'd wait until they were at the party. Not likely, but we should probably catch up before they do too much damage to your place. Zane said in his ever stoic voice before he turned and started down the same way the five had gone. Yeah, Zane's right, we should get going. Wrapping his arm unconsciously around Alexis, the two blondes followed after their friend. They had just made it outside when the last part of Zane's comment registered with the veteran shinobi. What? You guys better not break anything, or so help me I'll. Secure research facility that night. Deep in the jungles that covered Duel Academy Isle and sitting at the base of the volcano was a small camouflaged structure. The exterior was made completely out of metal with a single watch post on top of it. Inside the maze of hallways within the facility, alarms were sounding as numerous men in suits rushed through the corridors. Code Red, I repeat, Code Red. All personnel, Subject W01 has escaped. Lock down the building and secure the perimeter. Hiding in the shadows, a small figure waited until a group of men moved past him before running across the hall and entering the ventilation ducts. Moving as quickly as possible, the shadow reached the elevator shafts and swiftly climbed the metal cables. Seeing a window leading to the outside, Subject W01 jumped through it, shattering the glass. Not letting up in his attempt to escape, the test subject leapt over the side of the roof and disappeared into the forest. The next morning. I can't believe Dr. Crowler gave us a pop quiz over your duel with the Paradox brothers, and most of the questions implied that you did horribly Naruto. I don't know how you put up with it bro, said Cirrus as the group of 6 freshmen walked out of the academy building. Simple, I get payback, said the smirking blonde as he led the group down the path towards the Slifer dorm. They had decided last night to start rotating between the dorms and Naruto's place as their hangout for the day, at said blonde's insistence. It wasn't that he didn't like having his friends over, it was just that it got boring always going to the same place every day. His 5 companions gave him skeptical looks, but wisely decided that the less they knew, the better they probably were. Anyway, began Alexis, steering the conversation away from Naruto's nefarious exploits, what are we going to do today? Other than a report for Banner's class, we don't have any homework. I actually have a new deck that needs to be field tested, anyone up for a quick match? Asked Bastion. Cirrus and the Obelisk trio all sighed good-naturedly at the raw genius. It seemed like almost every week Bastion had a new deck that needed to be tested, and half the time he would immediately disassemble it, claiming it wasn't up to standard. Naruto shook his head with a small smile on his face. In some ways, Bastion reminded him of his surrogate little brother, Konohamaru. He was always coming up with new ways of solving a problem and constantly challenging him to duels. "Sure Bastion, I'll duel." Naruto never finished as his instincts kicked in, and he leapt into one of the trees, just in time to avoid a furry object attacking the group. From his place in the tree, Naruto's sweat dropped as his friends got into an anime-style fight with a strange assailant. As soon as it started, it was over, but not without a small casualty. Someone help me. Jasmine screamed as she was carried away through the trees. Naruto cursed as he fell back to the forest floor while his friends all got back to their feet. "Let's go everyone, Jasmine needs our help." With nods all around, the quintet quickly set off in pursuit of Jasmine and her captor. It didn't take long for them to track down their target, largely thanks to Naruto. What they found though, wasn't exactly what they were expecting. On a tree growing out of the side of a cliff was Jasmine and her mysterious captor. To the shock of everyone except Naruto, the assailant wasn't a human, but a monkey. Even more surprising was what the monkey had on. Cybernetic armor covered most of his body with a long, silver and pink helmet, completing the ensemble. Strapped to his left arm was a standard-issue Academy dual disc with a deck already set in it. "There you are," said a gruff voice from behind the group. From out of some bushes came three men dressed in suits. The shortest of the three stepped forward with his arms crossed behind his back. "Enough of this, Wheeler. Now are you going come along quietly, or are we going to have to use force?" To emphasize the shorter man's point, the one wearing sunglasses aimed a tranquilizer rifle at the simian. Wheeler, it seemed, was smarter than most would give credit for. With one hand holding onto Jasmine's arm, he placed the other on her back, ready to shove her off the tree. "Blast, stand down, we can't get him without risking the girl." "Then let us handle this," said Naruto as he stepped forward, bringing the three's attention to the group of students. "That monkey, Wheeler, has been trained as a duelist, correct?" Their silence was all the answer he needed. "Then one of us will duel him, and if we win, you release Jasmine. If we lose, you can go free." The last part was directed toward Wheeler, who nodded after a moment. "Now wait just a minute, you can't." The man was silenced as Naruto leveled a cold glare on him, along with a focused blast of killing intent that forced them to their knees. "That wasn't a question," he said, his voice as cold as steel. Everyone else in the area looked at the blonde, eyes wide with shock. They all knew that Naruto was unique and possessed many strange powers that no one else had, but they had never seen him use it like he was now. Though his killing intent wasn't being directed at them, his friends could all still feel a distinct shift in the air. It felt like the temperature had dropped a couple of degrees in a matter of seconds, and whether they believed it or not, they knew that whatever Naruto was doing was the cause of it. Ceasing the small amount of killing intent flowing out of him, Naruto turned and motioned Bastion forward. "Bastion, you needed to test out that new deck, right? Well, here's your chance." Shaking off the effects of the killing intent, the gray-haired duelist nodded and stepped forward. Taking the dual disc Naruto offered him, making a note to ask where the hell he got it later, he slid his newest prototype deck into the slot. Wheeler left Jasmine on the tree and jumped onto a small boulder across from Bastion. Both deployed their discs and drew their first hands. "Duel. Bastion. 4,000 Wheeler. 4,000. That monkey can talk," shrieked Cirrus as he pointed at the monkey duelist. "Please, that would completely unrealistic," said the short bearded man as he got back to his feet. His helmet is designed with the latest in neurotechnology. It simply reads his thoughts and translates it into recognizable speech patterns. "I shall take the first move if you don't mind," said Bastion as he drew his card. Grabbing another already in his hand, he placed the two in his spell and trap card zone. "I'll start with 2 cards face down, then I shall summon the 𝐫𝐸𝐺 in attack mode." A pterodactyl-like monster made entirely out of green gas appeared with a roar. "I end with that. 𝐫𝐸𝐺. At 1800 def 800, level 4, wind attribute, dinosaur effect. When this card is destroyed by battle with a pyro-type monster and sent to the graveyard, inflict 800 damage to both players." My turn. Draw," the cybernetic voice of Wheeler said. Drawing his card, the simian looked at it through his visor before placing it on his disc. Berserk Gorilla, attack mode. Next, 1 card face down. An ape that looked like it was on steroids jumped onto the field and pounded its fists on its chest. Berserk Gorilla. At 2000 def 1000, level 4, earth attribute, beast effect. If this card is in face-up defense position, destroy this card. This card must attack if able. You've triggered my trap card, Ring of Destruction. One of Bastion's face downs flipped up to reveal a metal ring with 8 flames around it. This trap allows me to select one monster on the field and destroy it, but we both take damage equal to that monster's attack points. I choose Berserk Gorilla. The black ring on the card appeared around the gorilla's neck, but before that, I activate my other face down, Ring of Defense. Thanks to this spell card, I won't take any damage from my trap. Ring of Destruction. Normal trap, target one face-up monster on the field, destroy that target, and if you do, inflict damage to both players equal to that target's attack. Ring of Defense. Quick play spell. You can only activate this card in response to the activation of a card effect that inflicts damage. Make the effect damage to you of that effect 0. The ring around the monster's neck glowed before, with one last snarl of defiance, the great ape was destroyed in an explosion. Wheeler shielded himself as the force of the blast cut his life points in half, while Bastion crossed his arms behind his green shield. Bastion. 4000 Wheeler. 2000. It seems he made another mistake. We will have to increase the severity of his punishments, said the short man, forgetting that they were not alone. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the man's comment. He understood exactly what he meant by that, having heard tales of the things that went on inside of the torture and interrogation unit. Alexis as well seemed to understand, if the quiet gasp that escaped her was any indication. But it was Cirrus who asked a question that confirmed their thoughts. What do you mean punishments? What have you been doing him? Merely what is required of us to complete our research. For years, we have been trying to create a new breed of duelist, one whose actions can be completely controlled. Wheeler is our latest success. He is a skilled duelist, but he didn't get to that stage easily. We had to coerce him to improve by poking and prodding at him, but it seems that isn't enough. Once this duel is finished, we will return him to the lab for much more severe punishment. Sir, that information is top secret. It isn't wise to go around telling people about it, especially worthless teenagers, the tallest member, wearing a black suit said. It matters not, there is nothing they can do to stop us. After all, they are, as you said, worthless teenagers. Neither of the scientists saw Naruto's narrowed gaze harden into a piercing glare, nor did they see the spirit of Naruto's mother appear behind them. Kushina gave her son a pleading look, silently asking him to use his chakra to give her corporeal form for a few moments. Though he was sorely tempted to allow her to exact the no doubt gruesome vengeance she planned to, the blonde shook his head ever so slightly. His mother's spirit scowled playfully for a moment, but relented, knowing that Naruto already had plans of his own to deal with them. Never surrender, never, though his helmet spoke for him, Wheeler screeched in the natural tongue of his species. Very well then, it's my move, drawing his card with a flourish, the yellow-clad teen looked at the card in his hand before smirking. The time has come to unleash one of my most powerful monsters. First, I activate the spell card, Double Summon. As its name suggests, I am allowed to normal summon twice this turn, and I have just the monsters in mind. Hydrogeddon and Carboneddon, both in attack mode. A quadruped monster that looked like a slimmed-down version of a Stegosaurus rose onto the field. Its body was comprised of some kind of brown gas that flowed from head to tail like water. Beside it was a monster that resembled a small, metal velociraptor appeared. It had 4 dark metal protrusions coming from its back, along with 4 at the tips of its tail. Hydrogeddon. At 1600 Def 1000, Level 4, Water Attribute, Dinosaur Effect. When this card destroys a monster your opponent controls by battle, and send it to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Hydrogeddon from your deck. Carboneddon. At 800 Def 600, Level 2, Earth Attribute, Dinosaur Effect. During either player's turn, if this card is in your graveyard and 10 or more cards are on top of this card, you can remove from play this card from your graveyard to special summon 1 𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐝𝐿 from your hand of deck. Bastion placed one of the 2 remaining cards in his hand into his disc spell and trap card zone. However, none of these monsters will be staying, for I activate the magic of Combusting Ignition. Combusting Ignition. Normal spell tribute 1 Carboneddon, 1 Hydrogeddon and 1 Oxygeddon. Special summon 1 Fire Dragon from your hand, deck or graveyard. I tribute all 3 of my monsters to summon the mighty Fire Dragon from my deck. A string of fire shot out of Bastion's deck and struck the field. Out of the resulting blaze rose a dragon made entirely out of fire. It had the serpentine-like body of the traditional Chinese dragon, but without any sort of arms or appendages. Now my dragon, attack Wheeler directly and end this duel. Fire Dragon. At 2800 Def 2600, Level 8, Fire Attribute, Pyro Effect. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned, except by the effect of Combusting Ignition. While this card is face up on the field, the attack of all plant and insect-type monsters becomes 0. When this card is destroyed and sent to graveyard, you can special summon 1 Oxygeddon from your graveyard. Red eyes glaring at its simian prey, the dragon opened its mouth and let loose a white-hot stream of fire that consumed Wheeler. Despite being a hologram, the intensity of the flames forced everyone to shield themselves from the heat. Naruto took that as his key to instigate his plan. With no one looking, he silently shunted behind the man carrying the tranquilizing rifle and attached a small paper bomb to the weapon. His task complete, he shunted it back to Alexis' side just as the flames died down, revealing Wheeler collapsed on the boulder. Bastion. 4000 Wheeler. 0. I have won, now honor our agreement and return Jasmine, pushing himself into a standing position. Wheeler nodded once before moving and picking up the redeed bridal style. Walking back onto the solid earth of the cliff, he set her down, letting her run back to her friends. Jasmine, said Alexis and Mindy as they embraced their friend. She didn't stay there long though as she turned to Bastion and threw her arms around him in a tight hug. Thank you, thank you, thank you, she gushed as her hold on the raw student tightened. Red covered Bastion's face as he wrapped his arms awkwardly around Jasmine. You're welcome, Naruto, and Cirrus shared a smirk as their fellow male stammered his reply. One thought passed through both of their minds, blackmail. The mood was ruined however, as the bearded scientist made his move. Enough of this foolishness, take him. The man on his right nodded and aimed the tranquilizing rifle at Wheeler. Just as he was about to pull the trigger, a small explosion occurred, destroying the weapon. What happened? His question was answered when Naruto stepped between them and the furry duelist. You? What do you think you're playing at, boy? I'm putting an end to your so-called research. Faster than they could blink, Naruto spun around and reinforcing his hand with chakra, struck several points on Wheeler's armor. The sheer strength behind the blows caused the armor to shatter and fall uselessly off of the monkey's body. Consider this your one and only warning, leave this island now and we can all pretend this never happened. Refuse and you will soon find yourself and your research all over the news. The short man glared at Naruto, debating whether or not the blonde could actually carry through on his threat. In the end, the threat or exposure was too great a risk to take. With a reluctant nod and one last glare, the trio of scientists quickly left the area. Alexis was the first to speak up once the group of 6 were alone. You know they're going to take every bit of research with them. How do we know they won't try something like this again? You're right, Alexis, we can't know if they will try again. All we can do is make sure we are prepared should it happen. With the light of the setting sun casting a golden aura around him, Naruto looked every bit like the wise and powerful leader he was born to be. Unknown to any of them, a time would come when a powerful foe would rise from the shadows to exact vengeance on their world and force Naruto to take up his birthright. A time that was close at hand. I hope you guys liked the story. If you did, click on any of the videos which are popping on the screen right now. I promise you'll love them too. If you like my videos you can like and subscribe too. I'll see you on another amazing What If video guys. Love you all, peace.